What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Creative Point of View podcast. My name is Ethan.
Noah.
And today we have Seth Lunsford on our podcast. We're super glad to have you.
What's up, guys?
So, welcome. Noah, you want to introduce him?
Yeah, so Seth is a really talented graphic designer from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, as I just found out a little bit ago. And so, yeah, we're stoked to have you on, dude. And we'll just let you kind of take it away and give us the rundown on who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Yeah. Like you said, originally from Cedar Rapids, went to high school there. Going further back, I was born in Idaho and lived in Montana.
Wow.
Until I was like 14. And then moved out to Cedar Rapids. We had family there. Went to Iowa State for graphic design.
Go Cyclones.
Go State. Moved to Seattle after I graduated. And then we moved back to Des Moines in 2020, me and my partner.
Awesome.
So that's kind of where I've been throughout my life.
So how did you get into graphic design?
I feel like there's like multiple things. My dad actually like had Photoshop when like the internet started and was like building websites like when it first started. And so I feel like that was like my first exposure. Besides that, it's like, I don't know. When I was a kid, I was super into sports, but also art. Me and my childhood friend would send like, do you remember? I don't know if you guys are too young, but you could send like illustrations to Sports Illustrated for kids.
Yeah. Yep.
So me and my friends would do that all the time. So I feel like that was like the first time I like realized I liked to draw and like liked artistic stuff.
Yeah.
Other than that, it was like my dad was a musician. Like that's what he did my whole life growing up. So I feel like my first like time I realized I liked design, even though I didn't know fully what it was getting like CD packages. And that was kind of like my intro to like, oh, this is like really cool. Like building that whole visual experience for people that like goes along with like an album was always super cool to me.
That's dope. So did you study graphic design in college?
Yep. I went to Iowa State for graphic design.
Cool.
What did you think of that whole experience?
I loved it. When I was younger, before we moved out to Iowa, I was more outgoing. And then when I moved to Iowa, for some reason, I just like kind of got introverted and shy, like throughout high school. So I feel like going to Iowa State was like a way for me to kind of get out of my shell a little bit and make a bunch of friends and start to, get out of my comfort zone. So I loved like the whole just college experience, even aside from like the design program, and also loved the design program. I feel like the program at Iowa State is awesome. I don't know. I feel like it's very like concept driven, like always have a concept, always like have meaning behind what you're making. I also feel like I was like one of the last like groups of designers to still like have a lot of analog stuff in college. Like we did a lot of stuff by hand, like cutting stuff, like cutting our own like business cards with X-Acto knives and like,
That's cool.
I don't know if they still do that. Like
we did something a little bit like that at DMAC where I went to college. We did a little bit of stuff, but not too much. Most of it was just strictly like digital.
Yeah.
I wish I got that experience though. Yeah, that's cool. Because that's kind of an art in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Do you do a lot of that like now?
No.
No? Is a lot of your stuff digital?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like print stuff is definitely more rare now.
Yeah.
We do it every once in a while, but
yeah.
I feel like when we do print stuff, it's like, I don't know, it doesn't feel as comfortable as it used to. But I still love it when we get to do that.
What time frame, like what year was it when you were like at Iowa State?
It was 2008 to 2012.
Okay. How have you seen like graphic design change from then until now?
I mean, like you said, I feel like just so much more digital work now. I feel like everything's online, everything's through social media. Because I don't know, my first like internship / job was at a record label, and so like even seeing that from like how much was going into like physical like album packaging and stuff, to now like when I work on album packaging, it's like so much less. Like the budgets are just so much less now for print stuff. A lot of it's just like digital assets, like single artwork. Like everything's just moving to like Spotify artwork or like banner ads, like that sort of thing. So I feel like it's changed a lot, especially now, like with all this AI stuff coming out. It's about to get crazy, I think.
Yeah.
Are you scared of that?
No.
Like, I think I saw it on Instagram this week where it's like, with AI, you still have to know what you're doing and know what you're asking it to do. So it's like, I mean, not everyone can just be like, oh, let me type into, whatever Discord or whatever you use, ChatGPT, and just be like, expect it to be exactly what you want. Like,
yeah,
still have to make tweaks.
I mean, I feel like that's going to be the new skill set is like knowing what to put in that prompt.
Well, 100%.
Because at the end of the day, like the coolest work is human.
Yeah.
And like has a human element to it.
Right.
And is something people can relate to. So like, I don't know. Until like robots are able to fully like think like a human.
100%.
Which they could, I guess.
Yeah.
And that would be scary.
Like, yeah. With like enough, I don't know, like with the AI, like the retention factor of like what it's learning, it's like, it can remember whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gave Photoshop beta a try this week with I actually use it for some of the photos from the Precious 2.0 shoot. And it still took me 9 tries to get what I wanted out of it.
Yeah.
It's not just like, one click and done, which that's what you've been seeing all over TikTok and social media, where it's like, just type in a prompt. And it still took me like 9 tries to get something that was even passable for what I wanted. So it's not as scary as everyone's making it out to be, but it is still like, it's very advanced.
So you said Photoshop beta?
Yeah.
So is that a new AI thing?
So in their beta technology, they have a masking generative fill function. So you can basically, I saw it like, I think just a couple hours before you sent it to us in Slack, but that TikTok where you can mask out like a subject or whatever, and then basically fill in under it, behind it, or in it. And you can just type in a prompt and, whatever. So what I used it for practically was I took a photo of the door and I was trying to get out of the way. But there was like a sun flare like hitting my lens just perfectly. So I was like standing there holding a hat over it to hide that flare. So you see my reflection in the glass. And so I just masked out the glass door and just put, I don't remember what the prompt was. I think it was like motion blur traffic, Gaussian blur door or something like that.
Like in the reflection.
Yeah, in the reflection. So it basically masked out my reflection of the glass, replaced it. It's not perfect by any means. I was just playing around with it. So.
That brings up a kind of a funny memory of when I got my senior photos taken in 2019. I had glasses. I still have glasses. I just don't wear them normally. But my senior photo photographer, and keep in mind, this is kind of before I started having friends that were photographers. So my mom had a friend that did photography, and she had me take my lenses out of my glasses for the shoot. That way, there wouldn't be any Photoshop. Well, she still Photoshopped glass into where my eyes were.
Oh, weird.
But it was like, that way there's no glare whatsoever of like, or reflection of her. But yeah, that's kind of just.
Did they turn out good though?
I mean, the photos were really good for like that niche of photography.
Sure.
I thought she nailed exactly what she wanted to nail and what we had discussed. But I feel like as a photographer now, like my style has just changed and evolved, and I'm a whole different person now.
Aren't we all? Yeah.
Yeah.
You should see my 2004 senior pictures.
I'd love to.
You know,
Yeah.
think about that.
Yeah. Pull them up after this,
I
man.
don't know about that, but
So tell us about like what post grad, post Iowa State, like what took you to Seattle, what jobs did you have, all that.
yeah. So I interned at a record label in Seattle called Tooth and Nail. It's like an indie label, and they have like a side that's like more pop indie stuff, and then like a metal side called Solid State Records. So that was my first job, and that was my senior year of college. I had like an incredible boss. He was the art director and creative director there. Him and his brother have a studio called Invisible Creature that does really amazing work.
What a name.
I know.
That's
It's a great
that's
name.
dope. Yeah.
So when I moved out to Seattle, like I have family out there too. So I was kind of just hopping around doing different stuff. I've never worked full time at like an agency or studio or anything. So it's always just been like technically freelance on my own.
How do you like
short
that
sprints.
compared to like being, on staff at a creative agency, so you're filling out your tax forms differently and everything like that. So
Yeah. I mean, I've done like 3-month contracts at agencies or like even like 2 weeks, like,
Okay.
and like, it's great. Like you make a lot more money, but I definitely prefer like being on my own, setting the pace. It's just intense. Like any experience I've had it in like bigger agency, they just move really fast. They want to see a lot of work and ideas. So I don't know. For me, it's like work-life balance is really important and like my mental health. So I feel like it's just long-term
Absolutely.
not for me. But I think it makes you really good and fast, which
Yeah.
is very useful
Yeah.
working on your own stuff. But
I feel like it's an interesting conversation of like, is fast always good though? Like, I don't know. Cause like even where I work, sometimes I feel like we're moving so fast that we're not being strategic. We're not asking the right questions. Like, what do we want this to look like and feel like and all those things. And I'm kind of a fan of like the slower process, but like, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
no, I fully agree. I would rather spend more time thinking than actually designing, if that makes sense. Like that upfront, like, why are we doing this? Like, what's the point of this? And like, how do the visuals speak to that? I feel like that's like much more important than cranking out a bunch of design work that's like half-assed or like barely thought through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gives you a lot clearer of like direction too, like even for client work, like sitting down and understanding their vision, and then like tossing a mood board in front of them and be like, how does this make you feel?
Yeah, for sure. I just think there's like you said, so much work out there that looks cool, but just doesn't mean anything or is following trends. And so like you said, like when you can slow down and figure out what's important or unique about your client, I think that's when something powerful can come out of the work.
Yeah. So you interned for the record company, right? What else have you done like leading up till now?
Yeah.
You said you did a lot of like freelance stuff. So
Yeah, I did quite a bit of freelance work with like nonprofits in Seattle. So that was like a big chunk of work I did right out of school. Also worked at some really great agencies. There was one in Seattle called Parker. That's incredible.
Is that Parker studio that they create fonts and typefaces?
Yeah.
You just shared that, isn't it their take on Times New Roman?
Yeah.
That was fire.
Yeah, it's
I
amazing.
saved that one and I'm planning on purchasing that font
Yeah.
because it's super clean.
If you don't tell them, I'll give it to you for free.
Hey, I'll take it, man. I'll take it.
No, so that was like Parker was one of the first studios I worked at. They were super small at the time. Another studio was one in San Francisco called Play. They're big now. Like when I started, it was just me and the founder. Casey working together. And now I think they have like 15 plus employees
Wow.
in like a giant office.
That's amazing.
So I'd say like those two were like what taught me a lot about the design industry as far as like studio agency life and process. So I kind of have that like very corporate studio background mixed with that much more not corporate stuff that came from the record label. So I feel like that's kind of put me in an interesting spot.
Yeah.
Where I can kind of flex both ways, which I appreciate.
Those companies that you just said you had worked for, Play and Parker, I mean, they're pretty big now, like you said. Why do you think they've grown the way they've grown? And like, do you take kind of inspiration from what they're doing a little bit?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I feel like Precious only exists because of those two companies, really. And even just being at the label and working with Ryan Clark, who was my boss there, like I feel like everything I've done is just kind of inspired by the people who taught me how to do this, you know? But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of crazy seeing how much they've grown. I think Parker's maybe a little smaller than Play at this point, but also like when I started there was only 5 people, I think 5 or 6. But yeah, like it's cool to see their clients just getting bigger and bigger. And
Yeah.
I see them all over the internet, like on different blogs and stuff. And I think that's like, it's always like very inspiring and something that I want to chase with Precious and get us to that point.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
I don't remember
Yeah.
what the question was.
Just like, I guess the original question was just asking like, why do you think they have seen that success and like that growth, I guess?
They're really good. I think they have like really meaningful and detail-oriented work. And they're both, I would say, both camps are very connected in the industry and in their communities. Like the Parker team, like they have been in Seattle forever, so they know all these people opening new businesses. And Play, like Casey, who started Play, has been like all over the country working for different agencies and just super well connected.
Yeah.
I think like that's the best thing you can do as a creative is meet people and work with as many people as you can. I would think, yeah, the mix of them being really good at what they do and just having a vast network. And I also think they don't chase trends. I think they're both like have their own perspective, which I think is huge. I think there's like a big part of the design world that's just like, how do I look like these designers I like? And so I think what I'm more attracted to is how do we create something that like fits the project and client rather than how do I look like this design studio I really admire. So in my opinion, that's why they're successful is each project is defined by the client and the problem they're solving rather than looking like everyone else.
From a practical standpoint, how do you go about doing that? Like kind of drowning out the noise of trends and of other influences, because I think I even saw something Sydney posted this week on her story, or maybe it's even on her feed, that like if you draw inspiration from like Pinterest or if you stay on Pinterest or something like that, it's like your inspiration is just going to be really like funneled to who you're influenced by. So it's like, I don't think I'm wording it correctly, but like, how do you go about, and how do you think it's practical for them to like go about like staying in their lane?
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard. And I think there's also room for Pinterest and, Instagram and like all these things. And I don't think trends are always bad either, but I think a trend comes and goes. So it's like, I think some of these studios really latch onto a trend and then a few years later, they're just not relevant. And so I think for me, like getting outside of the design world is huge. Like I love movies. I'm like super into video games. Like I think the more stuff you can do outside of your field, and the more people you can meet of different backgrounds and experiences, like that's where you're going to learn all these things that have nothing to do with design, but still like can influence you. Like I love to go thrifting and like picking, like finding like old design print pieces and like, so I think as much as you can get away from the Pinterest, the Instagram, Tumblr, whatever, the better. But like, if I'm being like honest, like sometimes deadlines are too quick and you can't like spend a full day in like a library or something, you know? So like, I think just being aware of like when you can like dive into a story, do some research that's not just pulling a bunch of mood boards together from design blogs. Try and do that as much as you can, because that's where like the interesting work's going to come. Something that doesn't look like what the other studios are doing.
Yeah, something that hasn't been done yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like this is something that I read in a book recently, but it's like, well, first of all, Kanye said this too, and I heard this in like an old interview of his, but it's like, I feel like, or he said something like, everyone's idea is just someone just takes someone else's idea, but they like will put their like spin on it, basically, and that's how it goes. It's like that's how everything is. I mean, we're all inspired by something. We might take something from someone else's thing, but then it's like, how can I make this my own or tweak this to be unique or whatever? Yeah. But then also when I was reading this book, I keep bringing it up, and I'm not trying to like keep bringing up the book, but The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. I read something in it saying like all ideas have a time and like a season or a place, and it's like Ethan and I might have the same exact idea for something, and it's like if Ethan acts on it before I do, I shouldn't be upset or mad about it. It was meant to be like the timing was like perfect, and that's just what happened, you know? And it's just like, I feel like that's another thing too, is like, with like the trends thing and like copying people or like, you know, whatever, or taking too much inspiration from someone. I feel like that train of thought that I had kind of like ties into that a little bit, because it's like, okay, like if you have an idea but someone else already did it, like it's fine, it's cool, but also I don't know where I was going with that, but I was going
that makes sense. I feel like even taking something that's trendy or popular, and even the fact that you're doing it is going to make it different than anyone else doing this trend or thing that's popular. I actually just bought that book. I'm super excited to read it.
I think I saw it on your coffee table.
Yeah. I love him so much. There's a like 4-part documentary series on Showtime that's all about his studio, Rick Rubin.
Yep.
It's amazing. I think he's one of the like most inspirational figures that I've come across for like creative work.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know, just the way he thinks about everything is amazing. So I'm excited to read that.
Yeah. And I didn't even know much about him until Sydney Strachey came on, and she was the one that really kept like saying, yeah, I got this book in my Amazon cart and I can't wait to read it. And so I was like, all right, I've never bought a book, but I'll check one out. Like I'll buy one and see how I like it. So
yeah, you should definitely watch that series. It's incredible. Like, I mean, what's crazy about him, and I think this is something I try and do with the studio, is like Rick Rubin's done records for like Beastie Boys, but then he'll do one for the Strokes, and then he'll do one for Slipknot. Like, he doesn't have a style,
right?
Which is something I'm like very drawn to. He brings out the story and music within each of these artists, which is like essentially what Precious, like that's where the name came from, is like I think everyone's valuable in their own way and like has their own unique perspective and story to tell. So like that's the stuff I'm really interested in. Like Noah, before we were on here, we were chilling outside and you had like fishing poles in your car, and I was like, oh, do you fish? And like,
Yeah.
just hearing you talk about how much you love to fish, like that's the stuff that I'm like, man, how do you bring like, I don't know what it would be, but like those sort of things, like that's what would make you so unique as a designer.
Cool.
Like those sort of things, like that's the sort of things that I like to pull in to my work.
Yeah.
Even though like fishing seems like a strange place to find inspiration, but even you talking about like, that's where I find calm and like peace when I'm fishing. Like I think stuff like that is really, really cool.
Well, it's kind of funny that you bring that up, because it's like, as graphic designers, trying to communicate things for people, but trying to have like a reason behind everything too. It's like, I definitely feel like in my college experience, we were taught like how to present our ideas. And then I've also talked to you about it too. Like, and Marissa, that was in Precious that one day. I remember I was working on something. It was that thing for Maggie, for Somo Studios. And Marissa came in, and Marissa was like, yeah, as long as you can explain it, you know, and the meaning behind it. And I was like, I mean, true. And so with the fishing thing, it's like, this is just the graphic designer and me trying to explain that and tie it into like what I do. But it's like a lot of my stuff is faith inspired stuff, like a lot of the personal work I do. And so it's like, I'm a fisherman, but I'm also fishing for man, like, you know, trying to spread like the gospel through my stuff too. So I don't know. That's an example of like finding that like reasoning or like the meaning behind it. And also like you said, calm and peace. And I feel like that is kind of my style in a sense. It's pretty minimalistic, but it's also like that's what like minimalism feels to me. It's like calm, right? And like peaceful. Not a lot going on. It's not like in your face or like bold or like super like edgy, you know, but it's pretty like chill, right? And that's kind of how I am. So I don't know. That was just a side tangent, but
no, I feel like, I mean, you talking about like the calmness of fishing, and like I've seen your photography, it's like very bare and minimum, like, and you're kind of like a quiet dude. Like I feel like all that plays into like who you are and like is there for a reason, you know? So it's always interesting to me to see like what you're drawn to outside of your profession that like actually influences your work and who you are and what your point of view is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like, I mean, with being a graphic designer, like, and getting to know your clients and stuff, like, do you feel like that's a gift you have, is like reading people and getting to know them, you know, bring out those things that they might not know about themselves, or like see those things, like the deeper side of a person? Do you feel like that's a gift that you have?
I don't know. I mean, it could be. I think even if it's not a gift, it's something I'm really interested in. Like, I think as I've grown up, like the question of like, what do you do for work is like so boring to me. So like, I've always tried to be like, what do you like to do? Or like if you're not working, what are you doing? Like what gets you excited, and what like is something you want to do when you have free time? So I think figuring out like what that is always so interesting to me. Or just like the things that bring me to life. I want to know what that is for other people. 'Cause I think there's just this like stigma that we are our work and that's what defines us. And so I think like, I just always want to see what's deeper. Like if money wasn't like an object, what would you be doing? Like, would you be playing video games full time? Like I have friends who would, I'd love to test video games, you know? So I don't know. I feel like, I don't know if it's a gift of mine, but it's something I am really interested in. And I think that's kind of where Precious kind of came from. And that's what we're trying to get out of our clients, because I think that's what's going to make their product or service special.
That's also, let's not even skip over that. Like the meaning of precious. That is a really cool meaning.
I was going to say, like, after you were finished, explain to people like who may not know you personally what precious is and like where you came from with that.
Yeah. So I moved back to Des Moines in 2020, and I think I started Precious in 2021. And essentially, it's just what I've been talking about. Like the name came from the idea that I think everyone's valuable and unique in their own way. And so like Precious kind of speaks to like the idea of like a jewel or like uncovering something beautiful or pretty that's not necessarily beautiful or pretty at first glance. Even like our logo, like, I don't know if this is super clear, but it's actually a top-down view of a diamond.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
So like when we were initially doing the logo, like we were playing with a lot of like seeing it from the side, like what people would think of when they think of a diamond. So like that idea was super interesting to me because it's taking something beautiful and looking at it in a different way, which is like everything that I think is important and cool to pull out from clients. Like, I don't know, whatever makes you unique, like that's what's going to make you stand out in your industry. That's what's going to make you be more relatable and human to people. So, yeah, that's kind of where the name came from. I also love like the duality of it because it's like, it's kind of a dainty, like feminine name, but like the word mark we did is like super bold, all caps. So far, like branding has been like kind of gritty and like not super clean. Like it's kind of a balance between the two. And I also love duality in my work, like super clean paired with like kind of gritty and imperfect stuff. So
yeah, that's awesome, man. So Precious, like it's your business. It's a studio. Is that what you would categorize it as?
Sorry, I probably didn't answer the question well, but I went from being full-time freelance, and Precious was essentially me naming my business to start. So it started as just me. I was Precious, and then I had extra space in our studio, so I started inviting friends to come work out of the space, and slowly over time, it's kind of become kind of what I've been calling like a freelance collective. We have people in there who have full-time jobs, who work remotely. But then we also work together on projects as much as we can. So I'm like super interested in like running the studio, like a normal graphic design studio, but then bringing in people with all different skill sets that can kind of riff on different ideas and projects. I don't know. That's kind of what's interesting to me, not just having everyone in there who does the same thing.
Yeah.
Because I just have more fun on projects when I can pull in as many people as possible.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a good illustrator, but I know a ton of good illustrators in Des Moines that I can pull in, or like having you guys help with like photography stuff. Like I don't know anything about photography, but I feel like I can work with people who do these different things. And
yeah,
that's sort of what I want Precious to be, is like this hub of creativity, and people do their own stuff. Like there's that flexibility. They're not forced to like work this tedious 9-to-5 job. But then when we want to come together and make stuff, we can.
Yeah.
I was trying to explain when I was telling somebody that I was like going there to work for the day. They were like, I was trying to explain much less adequately than you just did what Precious was. And I was like, they're like, okay, so you pay to work there, but then you get paid if you like work with them.
Right.
Like it's essentially yes, but it's like nobody's employed by Precious, but like it's like we get to collectively kind of just work together, which is super cool.
I mean, Liv, who's in our office, likes to call it a cult because I feel like it kind of functions like one, honestly, like a community of people trying to do something special together. I don't know. But like, it's like, I mean, the only reason I have people pay is so we can pay for the space.
Right.
But like, aside from that, like I'm also very passionate about like paying people what they're worth, like what their time is worth. Like I try and not be the agency that like gets a $50,000 project and then hires a designer to do the whole thing for $5,000 and then pockets, like, you know what I mean? Like I want everyone to have incentive to be excited about what we're doing and like where we're going. So a lot of times, like we'll put a scope together and everyone will just say what they want to make, and then we'll put that into the scope, and that's what we do. So it's
and do
not
you like shoot that to your client as like a proposal, like, hey, here's what we're willing to do for X amount of money. If you can do it, let's do it. But if not, like, how do you vent those people from there? Yeah,
usually it's like, here's what we think our time is worth for this project, and obviously we're always down to like negotiate. But yeah, I think it's super important for people to be like, no, I think this is what my time's worth. And based on the amount of years I put into this trade and my experience, like this is what I want to get paid. And obviously like that comes with time, and like, I'll be honest with someone if I don't think that their time is worth what they think it's worth for a certain project or whatever. But yeah, I feel like it's usually just like, here's what we think the service is worth. And then if the client wants to go lower, we can try. But if they go too low, maybe it's just not a good fit. But I'm also like all for asking for what you think you're worth, because I think creatives get taken advantage of a lot too, because a lot of people don't fully get what we do and don't understand how much time goes into it or how long we've been practicing and kind of honing our craft. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's good. What kind of clients are y'all mainly taking on through Precious? Yeah,
I mean, I don't really have like clients we say no to, unless it's like obviously something that I don't agree with morally, but like we're open to whatever. I will say we love working with like people in the hospitality space. Most of our work is branding and then web design. So I think a lot of that is what we try and do, like coming in at the ground floor and kind of building a brand story with them. Like that's something we're really interested in. But aside from that, it's kind of just what comes in, if it's a good fit. I mean, I selfishly probably always look at stuff that I'm into, like music, and if we could do like some work for like a film or something, like that would be incredible. I really like menswear and like clothing. So like doing stuff in the fashion space is always interesting to me. Music stuff just because of my background, but yeah, we're kind of open. Like I definitely like smaller businesses, I would say, and helping them kind of grow into something that's bigger.
What are some local projects that you've worked on that you really, can point to that you're proud of, and also some that are not local?
Oh, I thought you were going to say, and also that you're not proud of. We did a rebrand for 8035, the music festival last year. And that was a blast. I think I had 10 plus creatives working with me on that, which was super cool. Like illustrators, photographers, like web developers, like everything. Cool. So I feel like that's like the best example of how I want Precious to kind of function. And with something like that, like we touched everything, like the logo, the illustrations, the type, the color,
the merch,
signage,
was super dope.
Merch. We're actually doing 8035 again this year. And similar to the come and go thing we just did, we're having different designers each do a merch design, similar to the design you did for come and go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's one of the big ones. My buddy Nick Tillinghast has a few bars in town. He owns Hello Marjorie and Secret Admirer and Good News Darling. And we did the brands for Secret Admirer and Good News Darling. Honestly, like I would love to work more with local people. A lot of our work is outside of Des Moines. So I'm still trying to figure that out. I think it's tough because I'm not from Des Moines. So I'm trying to build those relationships because I think that's important to people.
Yeah.
They want to work with someone who understands them and like can relate to them. So I would say those are the big ones in Des Moines so far.
It's pretty unique though, your situation, because it's like a lot of people would wish it was the opposite for them. Like, I wish I had more connections outside of Iowa. Like, I feel like I'm trapped in Des Moines. Whereas like you're kind of the opposite of that. You're saying is like you have a lot of connections to outside Iowa, but you want to get more local with it. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, one good thing that came out of all the bad stuff from the pandemic was that people are open to remote working more now. So like a lot of our work comes from the West Coast where I was, and even like freelancers I'm hiring for projects. Like I work with designers in New York and LA and like wherever, because like you don't necessarily need to be in the same space anymore. So that's been kind of cool, like to be able to do that. It's opened a lot of doors for working across the country. But yeah, I'm also just like very into making Des Moines cool, because I feel like what drew us here was that people like Nick and with his bars, and even like Mickey with 8035, like they were doing cool stuff and trying to make Des Moines as cool as LA or as cool as New York. So I think there's something really special about like building that community in these cool, attractive places. Northern Vessel, like opening cool new spots that young people can hang out in.
Yeah. That's cool. How do these people from like LA, across the country, how do they find you for remote work? Like, is it social media? Do they reach out to you through there? Or is it like they find you through social media, but then they go to your website through your bio, and like, then do they email you? How does that whole process happen?
Most of our work comes from word of mouth. So like we're actually really bad at social media and like not a lot of people go to our website. We're actually trying to figure out like SEO stuff and how to do that better. But yeah, a lot of my work from the West Coast is just like people I met in Seattle. My little brother runs a production company in LA. So like we'll work together on stuff. Like usually it's like friends of friends. I don't know, even like Play, the studio in San Francisco, like, hey, we can't take on this project. You should go talk to Precious. So it's a lot of that. I think as far as the just like organic leads, like that's something I want to figure out. Like people coming in who are just finding us on Instagram or TikTok or our website. Because yeah, I think most of our work as of now comes from like our community and friends of friends and just word of mouth.
Yeah, that's cool though, because like that's an underrated, overlooked part of like business. You know, I feel like a lot of people might spend too much time on their social media only, but it's like there's other ways to like get your name out there or like attract people too.
Yeah,
you know, you wouldn't want to be putting all your time into social media to look like something, to be like something, to attract someone, but then like turns out you're not like that at all, you know? So I feel like you having that credibility already just by connections really helps you, you know, build that trust with people faster.
Yeah. And honestly, like I tell people like Prinz, who's in Precious and works at NV and stuff, like I keep telling him like, you should just cold call people. Not necessarily like on the phone, but like just email people and tell them you want to work with them. Because I've gotten a lot of projects from that, honestly. Like that's how we got the 8035 job. Like I didn't know Mickey. I had just moved to town. I just emailed and said, hey, we would love to work with you this year. And he's like, perfect timing. I just took the new director role and like we're wanting to do a rebrand. So like I think people underestimate that the fact that they can just reach out to anyone now. Like with social media and stuff, you can DM your favorite brands and who knows, like maybe they're looking for some design help.
Sure.
Maybe they can connect you with someone who's looking for design help. So I think, yeah, I I think connections are honestly like the biggest and most important thing you can do to grow your business and work on stuff you're passionate about.
Do you ever get the chance to work on any passion projects, or are you so consumed in client work that you don't have time?
I don't do it as much as I'd like. I think now that we have Precious, like there's aspects of Precious that kind of turn into like passion projects. Like we'll do like merch drops, like certain t-shirt designs or whatever. I just hired a design friend of mine named Nate Utesh. He's like incredible. He lives in Indiana, but he's doing like a whole new merch collection for Precious, which will be really cool. So like, I feel like that's sort of what interests me is like, how do we bring in like design with like menswear? So I think that's kind of how I express myself in that way. But like, I don't know. I feel like usually when I'm not working, I just enjoy not working, honestly. Like, I think as I've gotten older, like I'm not one to stay up late working on design projects for fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would rather like watch a movie that inspires me or travel. I feel like traveling is huge for me. But
yeah, for sure. I feel like for me, like I'm 22, so like it's easy for me to stay up late at night because like I have all these ideas, but also I feel like I'm 22 and I still have to prove myself sometimes. Like I feel like I don't have that experience or the time hasn't gone by. I feel like I need to stay up to work on this project because I want to show it to people. I want to get it out there so people can trust and believe in me. But then it's like you kind of being in this for a while now, like having that experience, do you kind of, it sounds to me like you're kind of, you just know who you are and like, like, what you're good at. And like, you've come to the realization that like, you don't have to pull a 24-hour all day, all night thing to like get a good outcome on like a project or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think people doing stuff they're passionate about on the side is very important. Like, who knows what that's going to lead to? And like, even just doing stuff for fun, like helps you grow as a creative. I think the older I get, the more I just want to put all my energy into one thing. So like, if I do some sort of passion project, it's probably going to be like adjacent to Precious or a part of Precious. Like me and my partner talk about all the time, like opening up some sort of like home goods store eventually that has like, I don't know, stuff for your home, like antiques, vintage clothing. Maybe it's like some Precious merch. I don't know. So like, I think anything that would be a side project, I would funnel through Precious just because I feel like that's where I want my energy to go. But I think it's less like that I'm too old to do stuff. I think I'm just kind of honing in on what it is I want to do. But
yeah,
I think when you're starting, like that's so important to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's another way, like a lot of designers, I feel like are frustrated when they're young because their portfolio isn't very big, but like those passion projects, like you can do unlimited amounts of projects like that and you can make up whatever you want them to be to kind of flex your design muscles or whatever and attract clients that interest you. So I think it's really important to do that sort of stuff. I think it's just maybe changed as I've gotten older. And I've just realized how important my time away from the computer and away from design helps me be more creative.
How do you spend
kind of like
that
you're
time?
fishing?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I've said it a lot, but I watch a lot of movies. I love to travel. I feel like traveling's like the best thing you can do for your mind and like creative thinking.
Put yourself in different environments. Yeah.
Like whenever I come back from a trip, I'm just like have a million ideas and want to implement all these new things at the office. And like just hanging out with friends and family is a huge part of my life. What else? I love to go antiquing and thrifting.
What are some of the movies that you really like and inspire you? And also, where are some places that you've traveled to that you've like came back like that specific place really like brought me new ideas?
Man, that's tough. I feel like traveling. I've been visiting my brother in LA a lot more. I love going to LA. I feel like that's like a really creative city for me. Seattle, I feel like informed a lot of who I am as a person. And when I go back there, I feel like that's always inspiring to me. I feel like that city, like Seattle, is the closest fit I've found for me and my personality. Like, I feel like that's where I'll probably end up eventually someday again. Europe, I've only gone a few times, but like, that's like mind opening. Like, I feel like it's just so different over there. And honestly, like, I haven't traveled as much as I'd like to. Like, there's so many places in the States I still haven't been. I'm going to see my childhood friend in a few weeks in Austin. I've never been to Austin, so I
hear
super
Austin's
excited.
a good city.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have like a cool art scene is what I'm told. So that's dope.
I mean, honestly, I feel like traveling anywhere is inspiring. Like even travel, like my partner's family lives in Winterset and we go down and hang out in the country. And I feel like anywhere can inspire you in different ways. So as far as movies, I don't know. This is always hard for me.
Are you like, what genres do you like? Do you like sci-fi, horror, comedy, thriller, stuff like that? What do you?
Yeah. I feel like I like all sorts of movies, but I really like super indie movies. Like, I love coming of age indie movies. I think one of my like all-time favorites is There Will Be Blood, which is like a super heavy movie. I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of all over the place. I watched Her the other night. Have you guys seen that movie?
I haven't yet.
I haven't.
It came out like 10 years ago, but it's kind of crazy because with like all the AI stuff happening now. I'm super like into like sci-fi stuff. Like, I love grew up like a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
Loved Dune. It's like the prettiest movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I don't know, but then like I love Crazy Stupid Love, the like Ryan Gosling,
Yeah.
Steve Carell movie. So kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
I recently got into like a lot of old movies. Like, I was watching a lot of Westerns, and
I feel like I see that in your merch you drop. Like with the shirts, it feels very Western to me. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah. I feel like I love just like Western culture, and I kind of realized like my favorite movies like and vibe are like 60s and 70s, like that whole era. Like, I loved Mad Men when that was on TV.
What do you like about it?
I just feel like aesthetically it's so good. Like,
It's
the
timeless.
clothes, the furniture. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Like, I'm really drawn to things that are timeless. So like,
Yeah.
I don't know. The colors, like, I don't know if you guys watched that show that was just on, Daisy Jones and the Six.
I haven't seen it.
Another show that's just like so pretty, and like the colors and the clothes and like everything about it.
What do you think makes something timeless?
Oof, I don't know.
Because it's like, I just thought about this the other day. It's like a lot of people would probably consider the Nike logo like a classic timeless logo, but it's like, why? Like, is it just because it's had its time and it's been solidified as that? Or do you think time has to do with it? Just like, I mean, time and timeless, like that's a no-brainer, but do you think something has to live a long time and have that credibility to just be called like that?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough question. I feel like one thing that I think makes something timeless is that it's functional and like serves a purpose and like isn't something that's trendy and is not going to be useful 10 years, 20 years from now. So I feel like that's a part of it. Like functionality. I also think like simplicity. Like the Nike logo is good because it's clear and like very recognizable and speaks to a moment in time, and still like, I don't know, what's crazy about the Nike logo is like the whole name comes from like Greek mythology, but like now they're making like super futuristic like technology in their shoes and clothing and stuff. So it's like it has that ability to, like you said, span like generations, which is cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool, actually. Yeah.
But yeah, I would say like for me, like timeless is typically like super functional and then clear and simple. I don't know.
I would agree with that, and I would also say like it has to reflect something that that does last. You know, like if it is a trend, it's only going to last for so long. It's only going to last for a season. So like what it reflects, I think has to, whether it's cultural or whether it's like economical or whatever, if it's just something that's passing by, then, you know, it's probably not a good reflection of what actually is it's about, you know?
It's tricky though, because like, I guess it's not always simple and minimal, you know, like you think about like Picasso or something, like I would consider that to be like timeless art, and it's crazy.
Yep.
So I don't know. I feel like it's hard to pinpoint what's timeless or what's going to be timeless.
Yeah. How would you describe your personal style?
For my work,
Yeah, just like when I see your work, it does have that like simplistic and clean feel to it. But like I want to hear from you, like what would you describe to be like your work?
yeah, I mean, I'm constantly trying to fight like having a style and not having a style. I feel like your style shouldn't get in the way of solving a problem for your client. You know what I mean? Like I've just never wanted to be one of those designers that like every project looks the same or like fits into a box. I know that that's just like bound to happen because everyone has a certain perspective. But I will say like my style is very clean, minimal, clear. I think it's kind of a balance of that. And like I said earlier, just like more gritty, imperfect. I feel like those two things really contrast nicely. And I think, again, that just comes from like my background in like more corporate brand identity work and then from the music stuff. But yeah, I would say like I'm either super clean or like super gritty and punk rock, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
and I think when you can pull those together, it's super fun. Kind of turn up either way.
Yeah.
In certain ways, but
Yeah. I like that.
my work's pretty clean for sure.
Yeah. So you told us traveling inspires you, movies inspire you. Who are some other graphic designers, like specific people or studios, agencies, that inspire you, and what are some like brands that inspire you? Because I see that you share a lot of like you said, menswear stuff on your story on Instagram a lot, and I'll see stuff like Ame Leon Dore, and I'll see, I don't even know, like I'll just see a bunch of stuff that it seems very fitting, but like what brands and what people, what designers are also influencing you and inspiring you?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like what I've said this whole time, like the designers that inspire me the most are the ones that I kind of learned from. So like Ryan Clark, who was at Tooth and Nail and is Invisible Creature. There was another designer at Tooth and Nail named Jordan Butcher who really inspired my work. Like he was doing Tooth and Nail packages that I was getting when I was a kid, him and Ryan. And then Parker and Play. I feel like those are like the main ones I look to. I mean, I really like classic designers as well, like looking at the ones everyone knows, like Vignelli and Saul Bass and that sort of stuff. I don't know. It's kind of overwhelming because there's so many good studios and designers now, but I'd say I mostly look at the people I've been around. And then as far as brands, I love Ame. I think they're another example of like taking like a really timeless design aesthetic and making it feel modern and new. Other brands. There's a brand called 316, another menswear brand that I really like. I don't know. That's a tough question.
Do you have a dream client that you have yet to work with that in a perfect world you would want to work with?
Yeah. I think it'd be awesome to like do a rebrand for an NBA team. That would be like so fun.
Hey, revive the Supersonics.
Yes, I would love to do that.
Now. I mean, you're talking about Seattle.
Yep.
There you go. That'd be sick.
I mean, honestly, like I spend a lot of time playing 2K, and like for a while I was like designing uniforms in Illustrator and importing them into the game.
That's amazing.
And like designing the court and stuff. So like that would just be like a blast. Yeah. Working for, or even just like a singular athlete would be really cool. I don't know. I feel like there's always these like really big clients that you would want to work for, but in my mind, that's just like upping the stress level and like, like really, I don't know. It just kind of stresses me out to think like if LeBron wanted to hire me, like that'd be amazing, but also like so stressful.
Yeah.
But yeah, or even like a movie, like I was saying, like if you got to do like the identity and art direction for like Dune when that first came out, like
jeez,
imagine like creating the title that pops up.
Right.
Man, that'd be crazy.
Yeah. So something like that would be super cool.
I don't even know how you'd go about that, like throwing your name in those circles.
No.
But I mean, like, hey, the Washington Defenders might have, or Guardians, whatever they might have to rebrand now. I don't know if you guys saw that, but like they're in a trademark battle with someone with the same name, so they might have to rebrand again.
I honestly loved the Washington football team.
Really,
like name they had between the Redskins and I think they should go back to that.
I mean, it worked. It's simple. It's simple. It was clear. Like, and I kind of equate it to like even bad publicity is good publicity because you're still getting your name in people's mouths. So everyone trashed it. Everyone just made fun of it nonstop, but it was in people's mouths. And so if you just own it, I think eventually that dies off, but you already gain the traction of just owning your identity, you know?
And it's better than having your name be racist also.
Right.
True.
Yeah.
Speaking about like trademarking and copywriting, is that a hard process? Like, have you gone through that with Precious?
No, I've never done that.
Okay.
We might have to cut
on my
this
list.
out then.
What'd you say?
So we might have to cut this out then before
Yeah.
someone's just like, let me take Precious.
I mean, I feel like it's hard too with a name that's just like a common word like that. Like I can't get precious.com. You know what I mean? So it's like,
I don't know if you keep up with like church politics or anything like that, but worship leader is a trademark term.
Is it really?
who owns it?
A brand called Worship Leader.
Interesting.
It was a whole thing, and you can look it up. There's like a lot of trademark battles, and they ended up like deactivating a bunch of people's Facebook pages, and apparently a lot of it was like not in like a ill-intended way, but there's just a brand who is stealing a bunch of their content. They basically just started taking down all these pages and everything. But like a term like that, where it's like, how do you trademark something like that?
Yeah.
But it's like, at the end of the day, I don't even know.
It's like, this is funny that this pops up in this conversation too, because like I was watching a YouTube video earlier today, and it was like Harry Styles. Like, what if someone wanted to open up a barber shop called Harry Styles? Would they be able to, or would Harry Styles be able to sue them because of his name?
His likeness?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a really good barbershop name, though. I've never thought of that.
That is an amazing barbershop name.
Yeah.
Someone should get
Someone
on
go
that.
grab that.
Also, love Harry Styles. He's probably top
We were
5
talking
for
about
me.
that the other week in the office. Yeah.
No one realizes how good he is.
Yeah.
I loved
Very underrated.
his last album that had like Keep Driving, Satellite,
Yeah.
As It Was obviously the big radio hit, but he had a lot of other songs that didn't get radio play that I tend to like
that's all
those.
strategic. I'm sure with being in the music industry, like what makes a radio hit. But
I don't really know.
okay.
I mean,
Also, I shouldn't say that no one knows how good Harry Styles is because he's one of the biggest artists.
Yeah, people know, but like I think still, like, to a certain extent, he's still underrated.
He just gets lumped in with One Direction, so it's like, oh, he was from that boy band. But all three of his albums are amazing.
yeah.
But I mean, like, people who still trash on One Direction as being a boy band, it's like they were very influential in the early 2000s and 2010s.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know how you hate on something that was literally like so influential like that. Even if it was only influential to a certain niche, like people could say the same thing about T Swift. Be like, oh, like, she has a very cult like following, but it's still, the influence is there. So you can't degrade that, especially when people, I don't know, just back it so hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Like what you like, I guess. Right?
Yeah.
But okay, I wanted to ask you this too. What is your like process like when it comes to working for a client? They come to you, they're like, hey, we want to work with you. You agree to it. What are your steps from there? Do you have steps, or is it kind of just an organic process, or do you kind of have a routine now where you're like, okay, we're going to start with this and then move on to this, and then it all builds up to the final product?
Yeah, I mean, it's always different based on like budget, like how large the business is, whatever. But in like a perfect world, it would start with just like a one-on-one meetup conversation where I just interview them, kind of pick their brain, learn as much as I can about who they are and what they do. A lot of times now, like I'll send a brand questionnaire for them to fill out. If we don't have the time to do that, like deeper dive up front. Sometimes we'll do like an audit if they have a current brand and we're looking to update it, or like more of a strategy session where we look at their competitors and their industry and all that sort of stuff. But I think like the biggest thing for me is figuring out what their why is, like what's their what makes them different. Just going back to the name Precious, like what is that thing that's going to make them stand out and be interesting to people? And so I feel like honing in on that in the early stages is always like the first thing we do. So really from there, it's just learning as much as we can about who they are, what the problem is they're trying to solve. And then from there, it's research, ideation, sketching.
Like researching competitors in the space?
Yeah, it's everything. Like researching like what it is they do, like if it's something we're not familiar with, where they've been, what they've done. And then from there, it's usually just coming up with conceptual directions before even getting on the computer and kind of building those out. So like I said, like a lot of the upfront, that's like what interests me the most. But
think more, design less.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because you can just like stare at a screen and over design and get in your head, and you know what I mean? So the more you can hone in on what it is that is your North Star for the project, like it's just going to save you so much time. I also think like being in a room with other creatives is massive for that. Like not getting stuck, because you can be like, hey, will you take a look at this? What do you think of these ideas? Otherwise, like I tend to just like run in circles forever.
Yeah.
Get stuck.
Yep.
From your perspective, explain like how important brand identity is and how like you go about like just forming that for others.
Yeah. I think it's extremely important. We were at Target today and I was telling my partner, like, going to Target is like, it's like a masterclass on like how important branding is. Because now Target has all these like sub brands that they've developed for like their women's wear stuff, their like organic line. But like when I go to Target and look at their products, as opposed to going to like a Walmart or something,
not everything is great value.
I'm going to spend the money at Target on these things because they look good and speak to me and kind of give me this feeling, more so than other stores do. My partner actually taught me that. I think she's a creative director too, and her company says often that a brand is a feeling. So like if you can make someone feel a certain way with your branding, like they're going to want to come back and experience that feeling over and over again. So yeah, I don't know what a good example would be, but like I'm sure you guys have brands that are your favorites, and I'm sure when you experience their product or their services, like they make you feel good, they make you want to go back. So I think it's like extremely important.
I like what you said about like talking about Target as an umbrella of a brand with all the sub brands within it. Do you see that becoming anything for Precious, like Precious as a branding studio, but like or like just a creative studio with sub brands with like different outlets of like design, videography, like cinematography, storytelling, whatever, writing,
fashion,
anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be awesome. I also think there's something cool about just lumping it all together.
Yeah,
like, I mean, I feel like I know we don't talk about Kanye the same way we used to, but he was like respected in the creative community for a reason, because he like literally was trying to make a creative hub and influence that spanned all industries, all aspects of life. So I feel like there's something cool about like not defining exactly what it is you're doing, but yeah, I like I said, we're about to do this merch collection that's going to be super fun. I'm going to hire you guys to shoot it. I don't know if I've asked you yet.
Yeah, you mentioned it.
You're hired. But yeah, like I don't know. I kind of, you have to balance like, is it worth coming up with like another name that might potentially confuse people? Like, is it necessary to do a sub?
Especially if you do so many things so well. Like, was it you or maybe it was Marquis I was talking to? It's just like, you ever think about how crazy it is that some brands just have such a diverse intake on like what their product is or what they do? Like, the first thing that I say whenever I talk about this is Yamaha. Motorcycles, grand pianos.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's like the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same brand, right?
See,
Isn't
that's
it like that's
mind-blowing.
wild?
Yeah,
but it's like something that does something so well, and yet something else so well. And it's just like, where's the gap? And it's like there's a big bridge with probably a ton of like other like intricacies and like different products and stuff, but like the overall brand is still Yamaha.
Yeah.
Now that you say that, I'm getting more of those in my head. Like LG does kitchen stuff now too, but for me, I only knew them as a TV, like technology, like business, right?
Yeah.
I also think it's like, why are you doing all these different things? Like, I would just want to do them all well. So like, not just doing them to do them.
Yeah.
But I think if your company's aligned and you have that really set in stone, like why or North Star, like anything you do should be successful in the same way. Like if we do a clothing company, it's still speaking to that idea of individuality and unique perspectives. Like, so yeah, I think there's a lot of room to think about what Precious could become 10 years from now. When
you're talking about, you said there's something special about kind of just putting it all together under the same umbrella, like under the same name of Precious. And I think that also is cool. I was kind of like, I used to be kind of in a different place where like, I was very like critical on myself of like, well, I have a style. I want everything to be the same and to look the same. But then over time, I've been growing to appreciate different styles and things. And like there's so many more things that I like now. And to me, it's like, I think social media can kind of feed into this, I think it's kind of a toxic thing. It's like, does the grid look good all the time or whatever? Is it really about that, or is it like, can I click into something and that thing is super well done, no matter what style it is? It is a bullseye in the target for what they were going for, you know. And I feel like I will admittedly say, like, I still, when it comes to like what I post for like my personal pages or whatever, I'm still pretty damn critical with myself for whatever reason. But like, I have kind of like grown with those growing appreciations for other things. I started to post things that a couple years ago I wouldn't have posted, because it's like, I really like film stuff now, when I used to just be like strictly, I only shoot digital, but I'm wanting to get into a film space. And like, I was only like kind of a studio type of person, but now I'm trying to get out and shoot more like, I don't know what you call it, kind of just like life stuff.
In the field.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Like kind of like street photography, stuff like that. I really enjoy, like, I don't know. So yeah.
I think it's good to not limit yourself, or like set rules that, I don't know, I say stuff and then years later I think the opposite thing, you know? So like
100%.
I think it's healthy to have those like perspectives that allow you to grow and be open to changing your mind.
I mean, we've talked about it with several guests, but like at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, we're all products of our environment and our influence. So whatever you're putting in is what's going to come out.
Right. Totally.
So even from like a non like field perspective, like you don't have to take inspiration from other graphic designers, but like you said, influenced by movies, culture, travel, all those things, like whatever you're putting into yourself, it's what's going to come out in your work.
Yeah. And your interests change. So it's like,
exactly.
And where you live changes. And I think it's always good to be open to, Precious may look like this now, but who knows what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, Precious looks one way now, and it's about to look different soon. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we just signed our letter of intent to get a new space for the studio. We'll be moving in. I mean, it's not official yet, but should be official soon, into the 1201 Keogh Way building that Northern Vessel's in. They have some space upstairs, like a big open, beautiful space. It's going to be like almost double the size of what we have now, which is awesome. We'll actually have windows now.
Some natural light.
Which will be amazing. But yeah, we're super excited.
Yeah. Congrats again, man. That's amazing.
So for anyone that might listen to this, like what would you explain like your studio to be? I mean, like we've talked about, like it's a collective of freelancers, but like what does that look like practically for, you know, anyone who might want to get involved with that? Yeah.
So we, first and foremost, like Precious is a design studio and we want to create things, and that's like our focus, but we also are really drawn to this idea of building like a collaborative community space for designers, videographers, really anyone to come together and like make stuff and work together. So now that we have more space, even like we're going to be opening up more desks to be rented. We're going to do like full-time spots if you want like a designated spot, more of like a floater part-time situation, and then even just like day passes if people just want to come hang for the day. So yeah, I mean, really just trying to get as many people in there as we can, meet as many people as we can. And I feel like that's like where the good stuff comes. Like like I said, like 80-35, like having 10 plus people working on something is just going to be that much better in my opinion. So yeah, we're excited. And yeah, if anyone wants to come check it out and see if it'd be something they're interested in, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, we highly encourage y'all to check it out. We co-sign and endorse Precious 100% because we both have experienced it and it's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
yeah. Cool. Well, congrats again, man. We're really excited for what's to come, and y'all stay tuned for that. We end every episode going over what has inspired us recently, whether it's like today or the past week. And so usually we'll let our guests go last so you have time to think. But
I hope you're going first then.
Yeah, I can go first. So I had some stuff happen in my life recently, which is pretty cool. I will be doing some work for Northern Vessel for the foreseeable future, I guess. And it's still very new, so like I don't really know all what to say. And you know, we're still hashing out all the details with it, but I'll be working as part of the Northern Vessel team, specifically on the weekends, getting content, and I'll get to work with Alex a lot. And Alex, honestly, like, I don't think I've told him this, like, but maybe I have, but I don't know. I kind of view him as like a mentor to me because when I met him, I was like very new to graphic design. Like I was already doing like some photography stuff, but like I was like a freshman in college, and it was my first time like getting into the graphic design space. And so like I did an internship for them my freshman year, going into my sophomore year. And so he's influenced me a lot, and I think he's super creative and such a good guy. And so and then like TJ, like the passion and the drive to, you know, to follow his dreams and to start Northern Vessel is really inspiring too in itself. And so yeah, I'm on the team, and I'll be taking photos essentially and just helping with content creation. And it's pretty cool. And I had my first weekend this weekend, so it was really fun. And I think besides just like the brand of Northern Vessel like speaking to me and inspiring me, I think it's also just the community and like the people that I've met through just going there. Like it's just a really dope community, as you guys know.
Yeah.
And it's also cool too, like our podcast isn't huge, but like people recognize us now. Like I've had a couple of people like say that they've watched our podcast and I don't even know who they are. And I've met some of your friends that I didn't know were your friends because they're like, oh, like, you know, Ethan, you know? So little stuff like that, super cool. And so leading to the second thing that inspired me, well, I guess, yeah. So the first thing that's kind of inspiring me is just working in a new space. I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to get to. But the second thing that inspired me is Drift magazine. You know what I'm talking about? Northern Vessel has like a couple of those like on their merch shelf.
I've read through them. They're so sick. Yeah.
Yeah. Like now that I'm kind of like in that space now, and we'll be curating like photos and stuff like that, I think it's important to like see what else people have done, what's out there. And like, you know, a lot of those Drift magazines are in California coffee shops or like New York or like big cities. And I don't think anyone from Iowa has been featured on there. So low key, one of the goals for me is to either get Northern Vessel on there or like have them do their own magazine or something. I think that would be really cool.
That would be cool.
That would be dope.
Like I would buy that book and have it at my house, you know, like that would be insane. But like, yeah, I don't know. Drift magazine is super dope because I've just been looking through those physical copies, but then like on their social media too, everything they share is just really cool. So yeah, that's awesome. That's what I got.
That's dope. Mine, I didn't want to say you because I knew you were going to probably say that, but like I talked to TJ earlier today actually, and we were like, he's showing me some of the content that you've already sent him. I'm like, dang. having you on their team is a huge asset. So it's going to be super sick. And like, even like going in, you were there too, like going in on Friday morning, seeing you do your thing, seeing you like there, going upstairs and checking out the new space with a buddy of mine. Like that was just super fun. But like what inspired me this week was like, before coming here, I had coffee with a good friend of ours, friend of the podcast, Austin Neal, super cool guy. And just hearing like some of the stuff that he's doing and like just his heart for like the community and also more specifically like the next generation is just really cool. Cause like someone from like who I'm pretty sure grew up around here and everything, like just like have such a big heart to just like do something cool, like bring people together. And that's why we were having coffee. So I don't know how much you would want me to say about it, but like just to see what he loves to do and have him like go after it, you know, even when there's maybe not like a clear opportunity for him. He's like, hey, like I know this is what I'm supposed to do, so I'm going to do it. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Community is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is probably going to be something that makes me sound really old, but I was totally against TikTok for the longest time. I'm not like social media, like kind of stresses me out. I hate posting, but I try to stay off TikTok forever and recently have gotten really into it. I have just found so much value in searching for something you're interested in and the type of content that comes with that. Like you can literally find anything you're into and see people, I don't know, making pants from scratch or like seeing someone's design process like up close. Like I think, I don't know, as I've gotten older, I'm like things like that kind of keep me learning new things are always super inspiring. I never want to like get to a place where I'm stalled out or stuck in my ways. So I feel like, yeah, finally saying that maybe I'm not too old for TikTok, even though my dad is on TikTok.
Dang.
So it's never
is he
too
like
late.
posting like music videos and stuff like
No,
that?
I don't think he posts, but it's
I
never
mean,
too late.
I'm not even on TikTok currently, so I mean, yeah, you're fine, man. Like,
Thank you so much.
You're ahead of me, man. You're ahead of me.
Congrats.
Would you ever do TikTok for Precious as a way to expand outreach?
We're talking about it. I feel like I need to we have an intern starting in a few weeks.
Let's
and I
go.
feel like
That's
that
lit.
might be something that the intern handles.
That's cool.
Because I hate being on camera. These cameras are stressing me out. That's good. But yeah, I'm open to it.
Cool.
I think I would want it to be like authentic and not weird or awkward. Because I feel like it's easy to make things awkward.
100%.
Yeah. Cool. This was fun.
Yeah, this was really
good.
fun. It was also like super fun to just kind of hear your guys, because you guys are both designers, so hear both your perspectives at the same time. It's really cool.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks
man.
for being on, and thanks for listening. And this is another episode of the Creative Point of View podcast. We'll see you in the next one.